Narrated Abdullah bin Amr, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever has the following 4 characteristics will be a pure hypocrite, and whoever has one of the following 4 characteristics will have one characteristic of hypocrisy, unless and until he gives it up. 1. Whenever he is entrusted, he betrays, proves dishonest. Whenever he speaks, he tells a lie. Whenever he makes a covenant, he proves treacherous. Whenever he quarrels, he behaves in a very imprudent, evil, and insulting manner." Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So this hadith that's narrated by Abdullah bin Amr, may Allah be pleased with him, it reminds me of a lot of people who, when they fight, they get really insulting, and I have this problem. And remember how, like, when Khabib, the MMA fighter, was having this verbal spat with Conor McGregor, and how vulgar Conor McGregor was? I mean, he left no stone unturned. And when I saw that happening, I saw a lot of my arrogance and impudence and just poor mannerisms overall in Conor McGregor. And then seeing someone who was more stoic, more reserved, just totally annihilate and smash the cocky person, as known as Conor McGregor, it was a big wake-up call, because I realized you don't have to be that barking, snarling type of showboaty person in order to prove that you have strength. And more now as I age, I realize the smooth operators are more silent and stealthy. They're slick. Even if you look at a snake, it's so interesting how they just move through the grass. But what gives them away sometimes is, well, a rattlesnake will warn you by shaking its tail, but it's the scent. So it's like, in order to watch out for some snakes in trees and in the grass, you can smell them. Reptiles like them have a particular odor, and sometimes when you're walking through grasses and whatnot, you can smell them, and it's really quite fascinating. And when it's hot, like in certain places in Arizona, they'll hide in certain shady spots. They have their little hideouts, and so you see how different predators act. But people who are actually about that life, they don't always boast about it, because then they would, be in jail. They wouldn't be able to get away with it. And so there's also a Shakespearean line where Hamlet's mom says, "Methinks you doth protest too much." I probably butchered it. I haven't memorized Hamlet. I like Macbeth personally. It's my favorite. But his mom is basically saying, like, you're protesting a lot. What's going on here? So whenever someone's really a loudmouth and bizarre, it's almost like they're overcompensating. And we shouldn't be impressed, really. And when people get angry, a lot of they think they have to insult to win, and that whoever degrades the other in the most berating way, you win. Doesn't matter if you have truth. And when people get drunk, they do this a lot. It's alarming. I remember one time, my brother-in-law, before he moved back to Mexico, he was drunk and he couldn't figure out the TV controller, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're so annoying." Like, I mumbled it on my breath and he heard it, because he needed help. And then he started popping off at the mouth, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said anything." Because he just started to get really insulting, quarrelsome. And I was like, man, dealing with drunk people is just a terrible thing. And so when you look at number 4, you can also see that some people are very quarrelsome and quite evil when they are angry, when they want to fight. And if someone is entrusted with something and they prove dishonest, it's such a disappointment, truly. And liars, I don't have a relationship with one of my sisters because she just lies. And my mom, I don't trust her a whole lot, but she does tell me, like, your sister, man, she lies a lot, and you can't really believe what she says. And then my step-grandpa said the same thing. And I was like, why is she always lying? Like, she'll lie about, like, petty things that don't even make sense. It's not like the kind of lies where someone's like, do I look fat? And you're like, oh, if I tell them the truth, they're going to freak out. But you're like, I really like that color. It looks good. You know, like, you got to be like, okay. Or a boss is like, so, do you think this is a good idea? And you're like, if I tell him the truth, he's probably going to cut my hours. So, oh, yeah, boss. Just to get the meeting over, right? And so there's different types of situations where you lie to save your life, to protect people, but then there's those who they just lie like they breathe, and that's just a terrible way to be. And then number 3, whenever he makes a covenant, he proves treacherous. So you're like, hey, I want you to do this, I'm trusting you, and then they're like, oh, no, they don't carry it out. So when you notice here that when you read about what makes you a hypocrite, we can extract the meaning of don't betray people's trust, tell the truth as much as you can, right? And when you've made an oath, a promise, a covenant, a deal, stick to it. Don't betray it. And when you fight with people, try not to be too insulting, man. Really, really watch out. Don't get evil. When you quarrel, don't go scorched earth. Yeah, it's not easy to do. I really have to work on, because I get this huge revenge energy inside. And sometimes I wonder if that's a survival mechanism, because also though revenge can feel very sweet when you get it and you're like, yes. That's why I related so much to the Cersei character when she got revenge on that nun, the High Sparrow's right hand lady, because she was warning her, and the way that religious woman treated her and was punitive, and how they were trying to break her, you know, she pretty much got her revenge. And when Cersei blew up the Red Keep with her enemies inside, that was like, whoa. But then, you know, you realize it led to her son, Tommen, jumping out the window. So, unforeseen consequences, right? But in the end, you have to watch out and realize, are you going too far? What is necessary for survival? What is justice? What is my right as revenge? Am I being evil? Am I being imprudent? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Can I let this just fall off of me like water on a duck's feathers? Think about it. It's not easy to do. And I think people who say it's easy, maybe they just haven't had someone really get under their skin. The tongue, man, it can really get you in trouble. And when you insult, like Joey Manorino on X, the way he's talking about Mamdani, who's running for New York City, I'm like, this guy claims to be a Christian, and the vulgarity is off of the charts, to the point where you're like, this guy gonna get himself in trouble. A lot of people think that just because they post it online, it can't transfer into the real world, when in reality, it follows you, especially now. Your digital footprint is there, and you gotta be careful, you know? You can't be just being that evil, because he don't like us Muslims. And his vulgarity, I'm like, that's just sick. You can't sit here and claim to be a spiritual person or you care about Christianity when your mouth is that bad. And there's been some other like Christian. He sometimes waffles and says, I'm a Christian, I'm a heathen, I'm this, I'm that. He changes his religion sometimes like his socks, depending on what he can grift. But when he gets in quarrels with other streamers, podcasters, influencers, he makes up offensive nicknames for them. He gets really graphic and sexual insults. And it's always mentioning genitalia. And I'm just like, that's evil, man. That's kind of off the charts. And then 1 minute he'll like show a video of his kids or something, like doing something wholesome and happy, and you're like, this is like a form of like mind breaking, where you're extremely vulgar and then you show some happy, joyous scene. But he goes off. And I've noticed another trend where a person will write in a chat or ask a question in a super chat, and then the podcaster, influencer, YouTuber, Rumble guy will just insult the person, berate them. And sometimes it can be a little funny if it's softer, but I'm just realizing that people are just letting things fly, and I think that's going to cause a lot of destabilization in the future. Because wars get started for less. And people shoot people for less. And I'm starting to recognize how important it is to control your mouth and have good manners. Whereas before I didn't really get it, because when you're raised in with rap, hip-hop, gang music, you don't really, I don't know, there's something like you get dopamine hits or you decompress with the more mean you get with others, because it's like you're vomiting up your own angst upon them, and you get like this sort of vampiric boost to your own ego because you're able to like verbally crush somebody. And you're not really winning, you're just being vulgar and cursing at them. So it's not like you're educating them or refuting them in a way which they can see the mistake or where others can see it. It's just that you are shooting verbal missiles into them to where they want to get retaliation, and it's intense, truly. Truly. And I realize now, as I'm getting older, that you can refute someone in a cheeky way, and be contrarian in a form that doesn't just talk about their mom or other aspects that would go into the haram territory, right? You can just state the facts and let the facts speak for themselves, but that's an art of rhetoric, and we're all still learning, so it's intense. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and join the blog.